The Data Protection Officer Compliance tool is designed to support the daily work of data protection officers, for example, by organizing the process of managing subject requests, incidents, as well as all GDPR documentation. An additional advantage is supporting the preparation of a correct and complete data protection impact assessment. These and other functionalities allow for the management of data protection from a single tool and ensure the accountability of administrator activities. The DPO tool is available through a web browser after logging in. The core of the system is the record of processing activities, which enables the storage of full documentation related to the processing of personal data in the organization, both for currently realized activities as well as for past ones. Thanks to this, the accountability principle is met. For the purposes of the privacy by design principle, the system may also be supplemented with planned activities. Documenting processing activities in the system is simple and intuitive. For example, let's add a new activity, employee recruitment. We have to provide a necessary data scope. The system suggests the categories we can choose from a dictionary, which is predefined by the user in settings. This dictionary can be adapted at any time. We can also distinguish specific data categories. For example, for the recruitment of employees, this may be potential candidates' criminal records. Apart from the data required by GDPR, the tool also allows you to attach additional relevant documentation. For example, an information clause template, a consent or data processing agreement template. As an example, let's add a consent template. To do that, we have to go to the documentation repository. Some documents have already been attached there. However, the document templates area is missing. There is nothing to prevent it from being added. In the system settings, having the appropriate access rights, we can add a new area of documentation. Let's call it Templates. The categories that may appear in this area are, for example, Information Clause Templates or Consent Templates. Let's add them and return to the documentation repository. The missing area has already appeared on the Documentation Areas bar. So, let's add an Information Clause template for recruitment activity. Now we can assign an appropriate document. It could be a link to a website, a link to a shared drive, or a file from a disk. In addition, the DPO tool conveniently documents other company IT systems that support processing activities. On the systems list, there are already several examples, but we can easily add an additional system. For example, one to support the recruitment process. After entering the necessary information, such as the data center address or the system owner's data, it is ready to be assigned to the processing activity. Completion of our sample activity with a previously added document and IT system takes just a few clicks. Risk analysis. The DPO tool allows you to make an initial risk assessment based on PwC's Data Protection Impact Assessment method. Just answer a few simple questions to get a suggestion regarding the need for performing a detailed analysis. Let's assume that we're carrying out a very specific recruitment drive in our organization that requires large-scale data processing as well as processing of sensitive categories of data. In such a case, an Impact Assessment (DPIA) is required. Of course, the Data Protection Officer may take a different decision. It is important to ensure accountability and to justify it properly. Performing a Data Protection Impact Assessment according to the PwC method is easy in the DPO tool, thanks to the closed, predefined catalogue of threats, in the context of which we have to perform a risk analysis. As we go through it, we ensure that no significant risks are missed and our analysis will be complete. Threats are divided into two areas: legal and technical and organizational. Let's try to choose one threat example. It could be a loss of access to personal data transferred by digital communication channels as a result of an inappropriate configuration. In our organization, such a risk occurs. Network devices have not been configured to prevent DDoS attacks. Therefore, in certain circumstances, job applicants may have difficulties in logging into the service and accessing their personal data. We have not implemented any additional mechanisms at the moment, so the probability is quite high. The impact on data subjects will not be very high, but not negligible. What can be done? For example, implement an additional security system such as an anti-DDoS tool. We can also configure it appropriately. Then the risk probability will decrease significantly. If the risk cannot be reduced to the desired level, the system suggests the need for Data Protection Authority consultations. Thanks to an advanced workflow and automatic notifications, the DPO tool also provides the ability to monitor the process of recommended implementations. Let's add the first task: implementation of the anti-DDoS system. After assigning the person responsible and setting the task priority, it is automatically assigned to the activity, and the task owner responsible for its completion will receive an email notification. Going through all threats and identifying risks is a full and very comprehensive data protection impact assessment. The record of processing activities also allows you to add an appropriate comment, for example, in the case of very specific activity. Providing appropriate comments may be helpful for a periodic review of conducted DPIAs or in the case of an inspection. After completing all the relevant information, the activity is sent for approval. Following the approval, the system will automatically save the report, so that all the historical changes in the record of processing activities can be traced. Let's move on to the next module, dedicated to managing data recipients. All external companies to which we transfer personal data can be added. It could be, for example, a recruitment agency acting as a processor, sub-processor, or other recipient, for example, labor inspection or the police. The tool enables us to provide all the necessary information regarding the nature of the data transfer and to assign it to the processing activity in which the data transfer takes place. If our company provides personal data processing services for other administrators, we should also maintain a so-called processors register. In this tool, we can complete the necessary information about the administrators we work with, as well as information regarding the processing itself, such as the occurrence of sub-processing or the use of IT systems. Of course, necessary documents such as contracts can also be attached. To add a document, simply click the Attach button and select the file from the list. In addition, the GDPR Documents module allows you to organize documents into areas and categories. It makes it easier to find the file you're interested in. The DPO tool makes it easier for the Data Protection Officer to manage the process of responding to data subjects' requests related to their rights under GDPR. An example of such a request may be the wish to access personal data. After receiving such a notification, a new record in the tool can be created. Basic information is entered: the details of the claimant, the request status, the communication channel, and the legal right according to the request detailed. The deadline for request realization is also entered, so that the system can automatically send a reminder to the business email address of the person responsible for processing the request. There is also an option to attach additional documentation, such as the content of the request or the content of your response. Thanks to this, it is possible to demonstrate what actions have been taken to implement the rights of data subjects and demonstrate the maintenance of full accountability. The DPO tool makes it possible to sort the identified cases of personal data breaches and manage their handling time, which, due to the stringent requirements for notifying the supervisory authority within 72 hours after such an event, is extremely important in the daily work of the Data Protection Officer. In accordance with the methods proposed by PwC, we have to insert the date of reporting the incident, the date and time the Data Protection Officer confirmed a data protection breach, From this moment, the system will count down 72 hours to report the violation to the Data Protection Authority. We have to insert the processing context and type of violation required for further analysis, the reason for the breach, the categories of data affected by the breach, the consequence of the breach, and the departments involved in the process in which the breach occurred. After providing the necessary information, we assess the need to report the breach to the supervisory authority. The breach assessment methodology was developed based on the ENISA recommendations. The assessment is about assigning certain values to the indicated parameters in accordance with the PwC method. When making changes, the tool automatically calculates the risks associated with the breach. The decision to report a breach to the DPA is always up to the DPO. Depending on whether the authority has been informed, completion of further information is required, such as the date of notification or information, why it was decided not to report the breach to the authority. Finally, information should be provided on any corrective action that was taken after the breach occurred. In order to ensure full accountability, it is possible to attach additional documentation, such as the notification submitted to the authority, results of the post-incident analysis, evidence of corrected measures implemented, etc. The last module of the tool is the so-called DPO's log, which is a place where a person performing this function can document their activities and set reminders. This is particularly useful when the inspector performs additional tasks that are not documented in other modules. An example could be conducting regular workshops with individual business units in order to raise their awareness of GDPR. The Data Protection Officer Compliance Tool is the answer to the biggest challenges of GDPR. The management of GDPR requirements is automated. All documentation required by GDPR is available on one tool. GDPR compliance management is simple thanks to built-in methodologies. Contact us pwc.pl/dpo tool.